With ISIS brutally murdering hostages and after the Charlie Hebdo killings, terrorism has become a front-burner issue on TV, online, and on the front pages. In an interview with the liberal website Vox.com, President Obama was asked about the coverage.
Do you think the media sometimes overstates the sort of level of alarm people should have about terrorism and this kind of chaos?
I don't blame the media for that. You know, what's the famous saying about local newscasts, right? If it bleeds, it leads, right? You show crime stories and you show fires, because that's what folks watch.
But are the media the problem? Joining us now, Amy Holmes, who anchors the Hot List at The Blaze, and Mark Hanna, PhD fellow at USC Annenberg, who worked for Barack Obama's 2008 campaign. Amy, is the president, if not blaming the media, is he at least faulting the media for terror coverage, or is he acknowledging reality?
Well, he's actually blaming the viewer in saying that, you know, we have this attraction to fires and mayhem and blood and gore. I was really shocked by the statement because the president gets his daily briefing of the terrorist threat assessment, and if what he is reading is less concerning than what we're seeing on the television, he should tell us.
Conservative pundits really jumped on the president over that one line.
No kidding. They're not acknowledging the fact that he said, I don't blame the media. But this saying that if it bleeds, it leads, it didn't come from the president. It didn't come from politicians. This comes from news executives themselves. And there's a certain logic in it. In a commercial media environment, there's a competitive pressure to try to show things that people actually care about. And people actually care about terrorism. They don't care about some obscure, arcane, esoteric issue. They care about things that are of a general interest. They care about things, you know, we've experienced terrorism in this country communally. And so this is something that everybody has an interest in. And frankly, it's
basically the president, what you're saying is that the president is understating the case. He is saying that there is an overemphasis on what is a real concern to most Americans.
I think the president says terrorism is something where there's clear good guys, clear bad guys. It fits a media narrative really well. It's designed to be spectacular. It's designed to be this visual experience of violence that people are going to, you know, fear. And so what the media does is, of course, it's going to play things that are telegenic.
But he said it
leads is about local news. But, you know, when ISIS is beheading hostages and setting them on fire, I mean, how could that not get a lot of coverage? And there was another point the president went on to make, we don't have time to show it, saying what doesn't get a lot of coverage are incremental stories like climate change because they're not considered sexy.
Sure. But the president, it's absolutely fair. Things that people have a hard time making sense of it. I just want to point out, though, that this isn't necessarily a bad thing. When extremism, whether it's Islamic extremism or extremely polarized or extremely partisan sound bites get covered, when anything extreme gets covered, this has a moderating influence. This has a moderating effect so that extreme acts of heroism, extreme acts of valor are covered as well. And
Mark,
so it's good to see things
different from what the president said. What the president said is that the media is exaggerating these stories because of its visual impact and because viewers have this morbid obsession with violence.
He didn't say morbid obsession. He did use the word ratings. All right, let me move you to 2016 because Scott Walker, the governor of Wisconsin, and an obvious possible presidential contender, was in London this week. Question and answer got a lot of play here. Let's roll it.
Are you comfortable with the idea of evolution? Do you believe in it? Do you accept it?
For me, I'm gonna punt on that one as well.
No,
that does you
really.
That's a question a politician should be involved in one way or the other.
Is that a big news that Scott Walker ducked the question on evolution?
I don't think it's news, but I think if you
don't think it's news at all? It shouldn't even be.
Why are we talking about it then?
We are talking about it, but I would say because of media bias, and it's getting close to the point that the media seems to be suggesting that if you have a biblical view of man being created in God's image, that this should somehow be newsworthy, when in fact lots of Americans agree with that.
He didn't say that. He didn't answer the question.
Yeah,
well, Scott Walker didn't clarified later. My point is, why is he being asked the question?
Right. He's being asked the question because I think the rest of the world sees American politicians, specifically those on the right, as denying basic sort of scientific precepts like global warming, climate change, like evolution. And they see it as this kind of embarrassing thing. The BBC interviewer
Why should a person be embarrassed to be a creationist?
What the BBC interviewer said after that is, if we asked that question of politicians in England, whether they're conservative or very liberal, they would laugh at that. Because
another bit of Scott Walker news, didn't mean to cut you off there, is that the Washington Post ran a long piece on his college years, which tried to solve the mystery of why Scott Walker didn't get a college degree, which is not a secret. It's been widely reported, and he's talked about it in Wisconsin. Should we care?
I mean, we see this vetting of all presidential candidates in terms of looking at their, their college, what the courses they took, the grades, if they're willing to release them. President Obama, of course, was not willing to release his transcript. I think that this is normal, and certainly Scott Walker dropping out of college is newsworthy. People would be interested to know, and interested, as a up by the bootstrap story as well.
I think any profile would obviously include that, but according to professors are saying, well, he didn't seem that interested in school. He was interested in school politics, and I just wonder whether or not it was too adversarial.
Yeah, look, every presidential candidate that presents as credible candidacy is going to, in the modern era, face these questions. So
you guys both take it as a fact of life.
Yeah,
Obama
was asked about drugs, and Mitt Romney was asked about being a bully, and all these facts came up, and it was
and then the Boston Globe does a piece saying that Jeb Bush was a bully in Andover, was involved in a couple of incidents. This is 40 years ago. Hasn't the statute of limitations expired?
No, because people have this curiosity. I will say this: I have a lot of respect for the viewers and a lot of respect for news consumers to take these stories with a grain of salt. So, you're not the same person you are as an adult that you were in high school or college. Everybody makes mistakes that they don't want to.
The viewer may be willing to be forgiving, but apparently the media is not.
Amy Holmes, Mark Hanna, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, Howie.
Ahead with 60 Minutes in Morning, former CBS correspondent John Roberts helps us remember Bob Simon. But after the break, Piers Morgan, who knows something about being under fire, scorches the critics who try to take down media and political big shots.